Split Tube Media and the Cinesthesia podcast present a special daily October podcast. Hell to the king.
Jason, have you read Stephen King's books? Have you read Stephen King's books? King movie, a Stephen King movie. King movie, a Stephen King movie. King movie, a Stephen King movie.
I have done my best to scare the shit out of you guys.
Hello, this is Sheila, editor of the Cinesthesia podcast. Thank you for joining me on my very expensive boat tonight. This episode of Hell to the King features three men who are too flabbergasted by a film to say anything of merit about it, and cannot possibly convey the insanity that they wish to. To help to set the tone, I have included the background sound of a barn in a rainstorm. I hope this helps. Please try to enjoy.
Yeah, I'm ruining my life. My family hates me. Welcome back to Hell to the King. Night 19. Big 19! Big 19. It's not 18. It's not 20.
Yeah, we're on the crest of 20.
We're barely legal.
On the cusp.
My dad's still here.
Hi.
Hey.
I've only done this for 2 nights and it feels like an eternity.
The interesting thing about doing a daily podcast for an entire month, sometimes other people are in your house for more than a day.
Sometimes they come back.
Sometimes they come back. No, they don't. That's not coming back. we put that away.
Sometimes they just are still there.
Yeah, this is Jason. That's Jim. And this is Jim, my dad, who's still staying in our house, so I'm just making him watch these goddamn movies.
Yeah, ruining his life, too.
Jim, I thought, and would have maybe laid money that yesterday would have been the most insane movie that we would watch all month. That movie being The Lawnmower Man. Because that movie was completely nuts.
It is full. It's a full bunch of bananas.
It's a pants full of bananas. It's banana pants.
Yeah. Banana
but
pants.
Then tonight we watched Sleepwalkers.
Yes.
And
it's on its own level.
Guarantee that tonight is the most insane film that we will watch all month, because it's not. I'm done. You guys talk about this movie.
Jason, I simultaneously hope that you are right and hope very much that you're wrong. This movie is barely a movie.
Barely.
But also it's so much movie.
It's so much.
But didn't they start out by redefining what shapeshifters are to sleepwalkers?
It starts out
with based on anything?
No, it starts out with a nonsense dictionary definition.
Yeah.
I was curious if I was curious if Sleepwalkers were from any tradition, but not enough to do any research at all. But I was curious if there was any kind of historical basis for half vampire cat people.
Which is what a sleepwalker is.
A dumb thought. Sorry.
Technically,
they're half Dracula.
It's a formless cat person that is... the thing says at the beginning, probably the basis for the vampire legend.
Yeah. Oh, right. They're just Catmans
that was the
that people have misinterpreted as being Dracula.
Which I guess is what... So the we watched it on, I forget even what service now we watched it on, but whatever one we watched it on had a log line for it.
Oh, yes.
That said, Stephen King redefines the legend as these whatever monsters come to a sleepy Midwestern town. And first of all, I didn't think the town was in the Midwest. I thought it was in Maine.
No.
So
nothing about it.
That part, the only mention of the Midwest is that they supposedly came from Ohio.
Yeah.
Right, but they are lying.
But also, my question is, what legend did he reconfigure
Yes.
that they're referencing?
Oh, the legend of the film Cat.
But cats didn't kill the cat people. I want to know.
Well, that's how he's redefining it, Jim.
Okay. I got you.
In that he just made up a new legend. This feels like, Jason, you spoke at some point about us sort of entering the center of the Stephen King circle universe, and we are definitely cruising on through the other side at this point. This is it's like when Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes self-aware in The Last Action Hero, but also just in that era of his career. It's Stephen King is just a name you put on this gimmick factory at this point in cinema.
So did this have a literary
antecedent?
It must be based on a short story.
Was it a short story? Or what was it?
No.
And where
here's what makes this movie even more insane. So,
please.
On the surface, what you're saying is there's this movie, it's got Stephen King's name on it, and it's a complete nonsense horror show full of like weird gimmicks.
Yes. Agreed.
This is because technically Maximum Overdrive is loosely based on his own short story Trucks. This is the first original screenplay written for the movies only by Stephen King and directed by his dude, Mick Garris, the guy he got to make The Stand and The Shining and everything else. This movie, this is the most pure King movie. Even more than Maximum Overdrive, because he was like 40% pharmaceutical in that. And in this, he's just himself. And he's got his dude directing it. And he wrote it.
This is a post-drugs movie, Jason? He's clean at this point? That's great. Are you sure he didn't just switch from cocaine to other drugs?
Maybe he's just doing straight hits of maple syrup. I don't know what you people do up in the north.
I mean, I grew up doing straight hits of maple syrup, but they certainly don't make you right.
I don't know. I've seen some of your movies.
I make more sense than this.
Dad, try to tell us what a sleepwalker is.
A sleepwalker is, I don't know. There was a fake definition at the beginning of the movie.
No, you've seen the movie. What do you? If somebody asked you, "Hey, what's a sleepwalker?"
That's somebody who walks in their sleep.
No, from the movie, Dad.
From the movie, I think it's a cat person vampire energy beast with shape-shifting abilities.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Not more or less. What am I?
Yeah,
they can shapeshift, but also they can shapeshift their cars.
Yes, exactly. That's what I know. It's like, how did they switch cars? Yeah.
I assume you just get to bond with your steed.
So, and they're able to turn themselves invisible too. Or
I would say of all. He can through concentration make himself and his car. Mm-hmm. I thought so. Here's a note I wrote to myself, Jason, which I now have to half walk back. But I thought Deputy Andy and Clovis. I thought that they were both. I thought they should be stock characters. I thought that they were both very strong. The police people.
Yes.
Well, the police. The guy in his hat.
Absolutely.
Close the attack cap.
And and I wrote a note to myself that said, "I wonder if they read as so lived in and stock because this is based on a super long book." But clearly, no.
Nope.
That's good.
I agree.
Writing.
Here's the thing. I don't think this is necessarily a bad movie. But I do think it's a completely fucking insane movie.
It is. It strikes me that Stephen King doesn't understand movies.
Oh, you had a very good theory about this.
I did? I don't remember what it was.
Something about the way in which he looks at movies versus writing.
Oh yeah, we talked about this.
This is good. You articulated
he doesn't care about them.
Well, it's not that, but we talked about this sort of in a previous episode, where it's just I think that for him, like, writing is. So the one way you could say it, the sort of ungenerous way, is that writing is the serious work and movies are the fun time goof-offs. But I think you could also posit a slightly more generous read, which is that for him, writing, we've talked about how internal a lot of his works are and how much he gets into people's heads, and for him that seems like the job of a novelist or a prose writer. Like, he's writing books that are fun, but also he's digging into all of these personalities. But in a movie, you just have, what you can look at and what you can see, and so what he decides to write about is, like, what would be fun to look at, what would be fun to hear someone say.
I think I haven't read any of his books. It does seem like traditional structure might not be his strongest, or a major interest of his. I also, which I think is weirder in a movie, right? We're used to them taking a more specific shape than in a novel. I also feel like he has the benefit of having written 700,000 pages of book, and having written 6 movies, right? And a third of his books are books that he himself says, "Oh, I was just messing around, and it's 700 pages, but it's terrible." And he could do that because he's just so generative. But because he's only written 15 movies or something, if 2/3 of them are super weird and bonkers, it feels like all of them are.
That feels right. I don't know. I think there's something to the fact that this was everything.
Like a passion project for him?
Not even just passion project, but everything else that he has written has been an adaptation of his own work, and so he's felt he's owed something to that original work, to capture whatever spark it is, and that spark is going to be rooted in the original mission of the book. This was just a thing he wanted to be a movie. He was like, you know what? I'd like to write a movie, and I'm going to make it about shape-shifting cat-person date rapists.
Yes.
Who, invade small towns and have incestuous sex with one another.
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
you
say it would be date rape because it has to be a virgin, right? And they have to get the energy.
You can date rape a virgin, Ted.
No, you
but
can't, because you have to get the energy
rape her.
Right.
Virgin.
No.
Because then he couldn't steal her soul.
Speaking metaphorically.
I know you are. I know.
Get with the picture, Jason.
The core of the movie reimagines the vampire attack as frat boy date rape, and it's simultaneously one of the strongest choices and one of the least pleasant choices.
Yeah.
Yes. This movie, for 2/3 of its runtime, is a super traditional movie structure of mother and son murderers, sexual assaulters who come into town and seek out Much and a Mick and decide to steal her soul, and then you watch the son falling in love with her so that he'll betray his mother, and then they get out on their big date and he just doesn't. He's like, nah, I wasn't ever actually interested. And you're then what was the plot? What was happening? I was just watching him court someone to murder her.
My generous read on that, and this I'm positing this as a generous read. I don't know that the film actually did this work, but it did seem, because he got so manic and loopy.
He just starts screaming goofball lines about how he's going to eat her.
It felt like he was he had to psych himself up. Like, he knew what he had to do, so he had to take on this persona. He had to emotionally shape change as much as physically shape change. Now, the film does not actually posit that gracefully whatsoever.
You're giving the film that. You're giving that as a gift.
But because that character is so tonally different in other scenes where he has no reason to be pretending, like scenes with his mother and talking about it, it did seem like it had to be it's either just straight incompetent goofery, which is possible, but it felt like it was trying to do something. Maybe.
It did feel like it was trying to do something. And I think it is trying to do something, and I think it does something. But I don't think I know what it is that it does.
But that's my generous read on it.
Yeah. Generous read, so they may have been setting you up when she was saying, don't fall in love with this one while you're going out. The mother was talking to the son about that.
Yeah. And as though that had happened before.
Yeah, that happened before, but possibly it was just an offhand account, remark, not with any meaning behind it, because she knew what was going to happen, and
maybe
it had never been a thing. In fact, it could have been like an in joke between them or something like that. But just because of the way it played out after that, it seemed to have no bearing on.
It's possible. It didn't feel like they were joking. It felt very emotional.
Yeah, it did. It did. That's
if Mick Garris wasn't Stephen King's homeboy, I would have guessed that this was another situation like Misery, where it's written as a sweaty, terse thing and then made as sort of a wacky goofball thing.
So,
I've not seen Misery. So.
Well, we have a disagreement over whether that is intentional.
Okay.
But yeah.
Regardless of whether it's intentional, that is what it is.
Yeah, it is 100% Stephen King's homeboy. So, like, this movie, it almost feels like a gift to us.
So it's not like Mick Garris is like, oh, I want him to be falling in love, even though the text doesn't support that, and then telling the actor to do it. It's just what's there.
It's like a weird gift to us in that for so many of these movies, we have to second guess and try to figure out what somebody meant to do and what these competing forces were. This movie's just what it's supposed to be. Like, it was written by a guy who gets to write whatever he wants, and then he got to pick the director, and the director is the guy he picks to direct all the stuff that he produces and cares about. So, like, it's done. Boom.
This is... I want to front with a caveat here that I'm not pro-incest, but this is the second film, not in this series, but that I've seen where I was actively rooting for someone to have sex with their mother.
Well, when your mother is the great Alice Krieger, it's hard not to.
Right?
I was super... The cast in this film, by the way, is super strong. I don't know a lot about Brian Krause, the main cat pyre guy. But there's the cat vampire son and mother, and the mother, as I said, it's Alice Krieger, who's phenomenal, been in a ton of stuff. But the thing that I always think of her from is Deadwood. She has a great role in that. But also Madchen Amick from Twin Peaks is in this, and she's really good.
Yeah.
Sort of an irrefutable love.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah. Like just too adorable. Too like it's not. Yeah. They don't have to do any work, but then she does plenty of work.
She does the work anyway. She shows up and you're like, oh, I get it.
Totally.
And then she still acts.
And also does a really good job with the scenes where she has to be completely traumatized. Like, but one of the strongest moments I thought actually that she acted was one that initially sort of threw us when we were watching it. It's after he's attacked her and she manages to stab him, and then he falls down. And she has that moment where she looks at him and he doesn't have a cat face anymore, and she starts to walk towards him. And like at first you're thinking it's like classic horror movie thing of like, no, you've stabbed him, run away. But the way she acted it, I genuinely believed that she was wondering whether or not she had just had a psychotic break and stabbed a man. Because she's looking at him, she's like, wait, there's no cat face. Wait, what have I done? I'm going to walk over here, and then, the cheap jump, and he goes after it. But, like, she did that so well, I was like, oh, wow, I haven't really seen that moment done that way.
That made it logical at that point, to do that.
Yeah, it justifies it.
Yeah, if not logical.
Also, Ron Perlman shows up, and...
Oh, yes.
As his character from the TV show Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, it's
great.
perfect casting, even though he's not a cat person, because Ron Perlman already looks like a cat person. And so it's just this state trooper who shows up, who the whole time you're looking at him, you're like, is he supposed to be another one of the cat vampires? I'm not sure. Yes. That might just be his face.
Yeah, I was convinced he was. Because he's also, I don't remember exactly, but he's just being grumpy at all the other cops. And I was like, oh, he's going to come around and be the one who pulls them out of trouble.
He's being grumpy and also, like, borderline psychotic.
Well, yeah. I didn't mean to downplay that.
He's being incredibly sort of aggressive, but comically so, and he has all kinds of strange interactions with people.
Yeah.
So my notes app, I'm too lazy to write titles in my notes app, so it just saves my notes as whatever the first thing I wrote was. And so this document is titled Mark Hamill's Mustache.
Oh, yeah.
Because the opening scene, in which my next note is also almost no bad choices made in the opening scene, is two police officers in some other town finding an abandoned apartment full of dead and strung up cats.
Super good.
But one of the police officers is an uncredited Mark Hamill in a giant mustache. And it really bummed me out. That was the last we saw.
Is it supposed to hide his face, or is it just a funny joke?
I think it's just a funny joke.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't
sure if I wasn't supposed to know.
How he was wearing his face at that time.
Oh, maybe.
You know, and they were just like, yeah, sure, come on down. He's like, I got this mustache. And they're like, great.
They're like, oh. Or they were like, hey, Mark, we're shooting this silly Stephen King movie in about 6 months. Do you want to come in and just do a cameo bit? You'll be a cop. And he was like, oh, great, I'll grow a mustache. And they were like, ha, ha, ha. And then he did.
Yeah.
Just spent the next 6 months curating a giant mustache.
This is the first, I think this is the first movie I've actually seen by Mick Garris. And I was really excited that it came up because it means we don't have to watch Quicksilver Highway later on.
I kind of want to watch Quicksilver Highway.
It's only half a king, though. The other half is Clive Barker.
I know.
Who's also in this movie.
Why we... Yes.
As his John Landis and Joe Dante. And
wait, really?
There was one other one who made a cameo. All the forensic lab techs.
Yeah.
Like in the field. And who was the other one? It was John Landis, Joe Dante, Clive Barker, and Toby Hooper. All four of them are in there. And then Stephen King is the cemetery caretaker. It's all that same chain of scenes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, Quicksilver Highway I'm only interested in because I know Christopher Lloyd and Matt Frewer are in it, but
we can watch it. So the only reason I say we don't have to watch it is because I only put it in there because we were going to watch The Shining remake.
Because you were afraid we were only going to be watching 40 movies in total in a month, and you thought you needed to bolt.
Well, I just wanted to see what Mick Garris would do in a movie as opposed to a TV miniseries. Because he was, King's guy, and because he's doing the Shining miniseries, which we're going to watch later. But now we've seen it.
But now you have. And this is more of a movie than
I imagine would be. Yeah. But yeah, so this is the first thing I've ever seen by Mick Garris that I'm aware of. Jim, this movie confounded me because I don't know that I've ever seen a movie that was such a pure blend of complete inane cliche surrounded by completely insane choices, and like to the point.
It does feel like he took a paint by numbers plot. It's like a Mad Lib, Jason. It's like someone wrote a sort of general outline, and then he went through and just every time there was a space, he was like fart log,
Well, and it's also just like the way he shoots things. Like all the shots were insane by degrees. Like the thing I keep thinking of is every time Magic Amchik's parents are on camera together.
Oh, yes.
Like the camera kind of pushes in for this, moment of theirs, speaking to each other in their own world. But the way everything is framed, I don't know if you noticed this, but he chooses a lens so that they don't seem too far away from the camera. But yet, the framing is such that they have an enormous amount of headroom, and the camera goes all the way down to their mid-calf.
Yeah.
And it just, visually it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then there's the one shot where they're framed like that, and then the deputy steps into frame, and it's just his ass in the entire left-hand side of the frame, and them framed from above their head down to their calves in the right side of the frame, and I lost my mind. Second movie in which a cat fights a demon to save a girl.
Oh yeah, Stephen King.
Clovis the attack cat comes back for the win at the end.
Yeah, he shuts him down. Well, because cats are the only things that can
kill a sleepwalker, even though the sleepwalkers are cats.
Are half cat. Well, that's why, Jason.
Wait, why?
Like how you can drown in water.
Because I'm mostly water.
Yeah.
There's
this whole thing where if a wolf bites a werewolf, he dies and bursts into flame. Yeah.
Good.
Or if a vampire gets bitten by a mosquito.
Yes. Or if Ron Perlman wears a pearl necklace.
Yeah, it just shuts him down. There's no psychic activity in this, Jason, but there was another... Oh, this is another good example of Stephen King likes cool cars.
Yeah, it is.
Because what's-his-name main character has one cool car that turns into another.
Right.
I think I was just too flabbergasted the whole movie to... It was one of those ones where things are coming at you so fast that how can you choose what to write down?
I still have no idea how I feel about this movie, but I do know that it surprised me on almost every level and confused me on even more.
Yes.
Tonally, this movie is all over the place, which reminded me of our conversation about Pet Sematary, where we were trying to figure out how much of the tonal shifts were intentional, how much was Mary Lambert, how much was Stephen King, and that brings me back to this movie being a really useful like lodestone, Rosetta Stone for us to figure this shit out, because this is exactly what it's supposed to be, and it makes no sense tonally.
Yeah, this is even more tonally bonkers than Pet Sematary. This is... In Pet Sematary, it sort of goes back and forth between multiple tones. This movie is striking 4 tones.
Oh yeah, it's like polyphonic.
It's like a cat sitting on a piano.
Yeah, it's every scene is a fugue.
In the pantheon of movies about people who are also cats, where would you rank it?
I would put it way low because I've seen cat people.
Wait, so would you put it below both versions of Cat People, or would you put it in between the original Cat People and the Schrader Cat People?
I would almost put this above the second version of the Cat People, just maybe because it's just so whacked out.
Okay.
I mean, the whole idea that, first of all, that a cat scratch is going to, take care of these creatures, and they get stalked by cats too. They have to lay traps out.
Yeah, like cats want to kill them.
I mean, bear traps and wolf traps for these little kittens,
Oh, that reminds me of one of my favorite bits, too.
Oh, yeah, where he throws
the bear... The dumb courage of the sheriff throwing the bear trap at the end.
Amazing.
That was... Again, we're just getting echoes of echoes, but it reminded me of our conversation about the priest in Salem's Lot, and how, even though he didn't have the faith to power the cross, he rolled up to, fight a vampire knowing he was going to die. And that sheriff, to me, had that energy of, I don't know what's going on. I could just pretend to be dead. I could run away, but I'm going to pick this bear trap up and try to do something.
Yeah, and throw it without the hair trigger going off.
Yeah.
Beforehand.
That's a real hero.
Yeah, I really appreciated that.
Well, just because it was so bonk. I mean, because he had that Clovis the attack cat that was riding around with the policeman, and that just made no sense whatsoever.
Oh, it was beautiful.
On its own. But beautiful, but made no sense. But then the cat jumps up at the window when the son is driving next to him, and all of a sudden triggers all these facial changes.
Oh man, that was my favorite.
I thought that was really whacked out, but that was worth revisiting just for that change, and the way the sheriff interpreted it later, as he had no face. Because
he had about 7.
Couldn't do it. But it was just having that happen there, and that was just a really nice moment in that film.
Yeah, and that doing gimmick sheriff activity. Yeah. One of the actors just eating so damn hard. Dan, I made you watch this movie. How do you feel?
Still one of my favorites.
Would you watch it again? It's been a real fun visit.
I have been asked to tell you that Hell to the King is a special presentation of the Cinesthesia podcast, produced by Iguano Donald Studios and distributed by Split Tooth Media. Don't cry over Split Tooth. Music by Loyalty Freak. Hell to the King is edited by me, Sheila, on my boat, alone, only in the night time. I'm not allowed to walk the docks during the day. I frightened the lobstermen. Please come back and sail with me. I miss you.
Bye.